First of all, thank you to everyone who helped us get to this point. We're really excited to be up here and be able to actually show you something and have a product to be really excited about and move forward with. So thank you to everyone who was involved. We'll just go ahead and get into it. It's pretty, this is new to us.
We actually developed two different things for this.
My bad.
Surprise.
So as you guys know, our presentation was on a mobile application called SafeTrek, blue light in the palm of your hand. This was serving a challenge that we were given, and the challenge was to create an app that would increase community engagement. So that's the path we took, and we focused on two main problems. So the first problem we knew as students was surrounding the emergency blue light system that we currently have on campus. So the system we have is about $65,000 a year. Pretty expensive, and it's also largely impractical to a lot of students. So students don't know, do you run up if you're getting chased and press a button and wait there? Do you run to another one? A lot of students don't even know what the blue light system is. So that was the first problem. The second problem we noticed was just campus safety in general. So although I consider Mizzou a relatively safe place, people still tend to feel unsafe sometimes. It's just a fact. And a lot of students, like I said, don't understand how to use those blue lights. Parents and students who come through summer welcome, I used to work for new student programs, the number one question parents would ask is, how do I know my student is going to be safe when I send them to Mizzou? So that was problem number two. Thus, SafeTrek. And we'll just get right into how the application works. So when a user downloads SafeTrek, step one is inputting their profile information. So pretty basic, name, phone number, but then they also choose a 4-digit PIN. When they're feeling unsafe, the user can hold down a button with their thumb as they're walking. So let's say, Natalie's gonna demonstrate here. She's gonna leave the building with the application, and we're gonna see later why that becomes important. So we'll pretend, is Zach leaving? No. Oh, gotcha. But the user holds down the button, so let's say it's late at night, I'm leaving the library at 2 a.m., it's dark, I don't have any friends who are there willing to walk with me, I don't want to have to call 911 if someone is suspicious around, so I hold the button on my phone until I get to a safe location. When I'm at a safe location, I can input my 4-digit PIN. I have 10 seconds to input that PIN. If for some reason I don't input my PIN and I'm in an emergency situation, the police are notified and they get my location, they get my profile information, but they also get the path that I was traveling. So this solves a lot of those problems we brought up with the blue light system, and it also gives a lot of really, really great information to the dispatcher on the other end. So we've been talking to Joint Communications all semester, trying to get feedback on what they would like to see with the application. One of those things was having the option to text or call immediately. So let's say you're in a situation where someone is chasing you and you're not in a place where you want to actually call and make an audible noise on your phone. You have the option to text the dispatcher directly, and the dispatcher can actually text you back or even initiate the conversation from their platform. And we'll get into more about what the dispatcher side of things looks like on another slide. So we'll go ahead and show you how it works. Natalie left the building, and do you have a phone here that we can show an alert with? So Zach's gonna hold down the button. There's a vibration that he feels and also a little animation so he knows that it's being held. Whenever he lets go, the phone continually vibrates every time it counts down, so he knows, yeah, you need to input your PIN or the police are gonna be notified. After the 10 seconds has elapsed, a screen pops up that says, stay calm, help is on the way, and this is what the police see. So this is all on the dispatcher's end. They can click on Betty Boop's name and get the exact location of the person and also the path they were traveling. So if Zach were to be holding down that phone, walking down this street feeling unsafe, right when the police are notified of the emergency, they will receive his entire path, which is very valuable to them as far as locating him if it were a real emergency. So the texting option here is this little bar. So Zach can text, what's your emergency? Audible noise there, that was the text he received, and he can text back if it were an emergency. So I think if, I don't have my phone, but Natalie's outside. We want to show you how the actual path works. Zach, can you use your phone to call Natalie? she's been walking on holding her button, and we're going to call her and ask her to go ahead and let go of the button as if she were in a real emergency. And so hopefully, if everything works out correctly, her path will also pop up, and we'll be able to ask her where she was traveling, and it should match up with the map. Unless she's like just downstairs in the J Cafe getting the coffee or something. Is she not picking up? Uh-oh. Well, we can't contact her. Hopefully she'll just realize that we're not able to contact her and her thing will pop up here earlier. Oh, she is? Oh, there we go. So yesterday, we had someone help us out named Clint who could not make it this morning, which is why we had to use Natalie to go out there. So there we go. We see the path she was traveling. And now that she doesn't have her thumb on it anymore. She's in an emergency situation. So the dispatch will still continually get a live update of where she's headed. So if she lets go of her thumb, she's in an emergency and she wants to run, she can throw the phone in her pocket, doesn't have to have her thumb on it, continue to move, and the police can still track her location. Furthermore, as far as the dashboard goes, there are a couple other things that you need to know. When we were communicating with Joint Communications about what they wanted an audible noise so the dispatcher could see and also hear when an emergency popped up. So dispatchers have 5 screens that they're looking at once. So when something like this happens, maybe every once in a while, they want that audible noise as reassurance that they saw it. Also, if they were to have another tab open, because it's just a URL, it's not additional software, it would go immediately to the SafeTrek tab if an emergency were to occur. So those were a couple pieces of feedback that we wanted to implement into our application. And I guess you can text Natalie and let her know that she can come back. Yeah. All right, so that was a demo. Hopefully you guys have kind of a pretty bare bones idea of what the application does. As far as the dashboard, there are a couple other things. Where did I put the clicker? I think I brought it over here. So the dashboard's really, really streamlined. We wanted to make it really simple. Once again, there's no installation. So all the police have to do is log in to the SafeTrek website with a login that they're given. And I mentioned the audible noise that they get. Normally, Natalie would be talking about the market research, but I'll go ahead and delve into it a little bit before she gets here. We did a survey. So we wanted to make sure students would use this, that this was something students needed. So that's what we did. Luckily, I was able to go through MSA to kind of do that survey. They really have been helping me out on this because they want to see this implemented on campus here at Mizzou. So they helped me implement the survey. We had 458 respondents, and then that helped us garner 30 pages of feedback. So we had comments and comments and comments, and we were really happy with a lot of the results. Here's one, just about campus safety in general. So how safe do you feel? And you'll get kind of what you expected here. Very safe was about 40%, somewhat safe about 52%. But in a later question, you'll see that only 7% of students said that they've never felt unsafe, which means 93% at some point in their college career have felt unsafe. So I'll go ahead and let Natalie continue with a lot of the market research data. Thought we weren't going to find you.
Yeah, I thought I wasn't going to make it back. Luckily, I had SafeTrek. So one of the most promising pieces of data that we found was that when people were asked what they do when they do feel unsafe on campus, is they're already pulling out their phones. As you can see, those green bars, people are either calling somebody or just toughing it out, which is what made us nervous, that people felt like there wasn't really a good alternative to how to feel safe when they're walking around on campus. But then that second bar, ask a friend to escort, makes sense. Not always an option. And then a lot of people are texting or looking at their phone. So there was already a precedent for people pulling out their phone and seeking comfort in that device when they're trying to, sorry, I'm a little winded. It's all that running from the suspicious person. But basically, there's a precedent already for people using their phones to be safe or to feel safe. So then we asked about the blue light effectiveness, which we already kind of suspected, but this really kind of confirmed. About 20% of the students didn't know what the blue light system was. We tried to get a gauge of how effective the students felt it was for the ones who did know. Not very many thought it was very effective. And then we kind of, there we go. 1.3% thought it was extremely effective, and then it was kind of a mixed basket from there on out. And as it turns out, we did a little more research, and in 2010, the Maneater published an article saying that between 2005 and 2010, it's 5 years, 1,600 calls were made, only 3 ended up in incident reports. Didn't really seem like the numbers that we were looking for as far as the main means of safety on campus. And then we also realized that about 800 of those calls, people were gone on arrival because people are looking for directions or having flat tires when they're using those emergency lights. It's not really for the case of an emergency. So then we kind of gave them an overview of what our application would do. As you can see, we had about 35 people say they would definitely use our app, and then about 45% say they would probably use it. It's about 80% of our 458 respondents saying that they would download and at least sometimes use our app. So we're pretty happy about that. We want to do a little further digging about kind of the crime data that's happened around Columbia already. As you can see there, a lot of that data for the number of reported assaults and number of reported suspicious people, those were the 2 incidents that we thought were kind of relevant to our application. A lot of those are concentrated around the campus downtown area. So we realized that there definitely is a good case for our app. 909 reported assaults in 1 year. This is between April of 2012 and April of 2013. And then about 1,100 suspicious people reports. So then we realized that if this is a problem that we recognize fairly easily, that there are probably other people who realize that there's a good way to implement safety into your phone. So one of our direct competitors that we found was TapShield. So it's a group of students in the University of Florida who kind of came up with a very similar idea as us, and we both kind of launched at a very similar time. When we were coming up with our idea and researching competitors, we found an article from February saying that they were kind of trying to look into launching something very similar. The advantage for us is that they don't really have a product yet, and we already have that demo, as I think worked, right? You guys all saw. So we're basically trying to be the first to market against them, and that's something that we were really kind of keeping an eye on. Another thing that was promising for us as far as marketing our application is that we saw in their website that they're kind of rolling out a bunch of different apps that are relevant only to the University of Florida. So we thought it was promising that we might be able to roll out to a bunch of different campuses and spread first. Smart 911, not necessarily quite a competitor, but it's a similar safety. It's not an application per se. The main use that we have is the Columbia Police Department already uses this program where users can register their information online, create a profile, and then when they call 911, that information will pop up at the dispatch center. So they'll know who the person is, what their phone number is, and they can connect that way. And they can also connect texting, and that was something they really liked, and that's how we knew that we should implement that into our application. Our advantage over Smart 911, though, is that we help people feel safe. One of the major respondents' comments said that it's nice to have something that's not totally committal. You're not calling 911 every time you're walking home alone, but you're passively connected. So that was a couple of the different competitors we saw. And our primary target market for, as far as like revenue model goes, would be we're looking to implement into police departments. We really didn't feel like it was right, I guess, to charge people to charge users for their safety. And the idea is we want to get a wide user base so that the police department can better serve whoever is in their community. And then we wanted to use Columbia as a test market to gain that feedback, get some data, and then kind of use it as our example market. We're hoping to get about 3,500 downloads after summer welcome, which is going to be our main marketing push. That's about half the freshman class, and then we add that in with a few like upperclassmen who are maybe around in Columbia in the summer, and we think we can kind of make that goal and get a very good data set and maybe get some good feedback. We've made a bunch of kind of contacts, partnerships, built some relationships in order to, A, get feedback and also kind of make us feel better about making sure we can get that user base. 3 people can only really do so much. But we've built connections with the Joint Communications or the Dispatch Center here in Columbia. They've been extremely supportive for us throughout the entire process. They've met with us whenever we wanted, given us feedback. A lot of the features that we've implemented is because they said that that was something they wanted to see. And in fact, they were even here for our presentation yesterday and helped answer some questions about the logistics of how we would implement into their systems. New student programs, Zach has kind of mentioned, with Summer Welcome, they're willing to help us implement kind of marketing and pushing out the user base, and same thing with MSA, Wellness Resource Center, RSVP. These are all kind of student organizations that have incentive to want their students to have our app because they are looking out for students. They want to make sure that people are safe as they possibly can be. So we kind of tossed around a few ideas for future functions. For example, when that timer runs out. Right now we have a screen that says, stay calm, your help is on the way. We thought maybe we could implement something where it automatically starts to record audio. So in case you are in an emergency where you can't be speaking to a dispatcher or you can't text, you at least have some evidence that you know is being recorded. Or you could even say to your attacker, I guess, you're being recorded right now, and that evidence is going to the police department, and it might deter something else from happening. We were thinking about implementing a battery life notification where the police department can automatically get a notification when your battery life is kind of starting to fade, so they can plan accordingly and how to help you out. And then from the police end of things, they really, when we showed them our very first demo, they got really excited about some of the other non-emergency functions that it might be able to have in the future. One of the biggest things they say, they get calls all the time from people who are going on a hike or a run in the Katy Trail and just get lost. There are not a lot of really good landmarks to track them down, so it takes a long time to find these people who are lost on their hike or out in nature. And so they said with that geolocation tracking that we can do, that they would really love to be able to guide somebody out, locate them directly on a map, and they can either call them and guide them out verbally, or they'd be able to locate this person immediately. So I don't know if we have a ton of time for questions, but we wanted to open the floor in case.
We actually do have time for questions, and I'm going to ask the first one while the audience thinks about what they might want to ask. So you're going to test it in Colombia. What do you think is the viability for this product in other markets, and what kinds of markets would you want to take it to?
That's one of the things we kind of had to
Microphone?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Thank you. That's one of the things we cut out of our presentation from yesterday was more the numbers of the revenue and also our scaling. So first I should mention probably our pricing model. So what we'd like to do is offer it to police departments on a trial basis. That way they can see the value, we can have the time to collect as many users in that area, and then present that to them after about 3 months for a yearly subscription. So then they can pay the yearly subscription for it. As far as scaling goes, we'd like to use Mizzou here and take the advantages and the resources we have with RJI, all those partnerships, and push it out as much as we can here and package that info and say, look at how many users we had, look at how many people are using this application, and then hopefully our goal is this semester to push it out to 5 more communities. That's our goal, 5. So take what we had here at Mizzou, let's say go to Springfield and do it at Missouri State, present it to their police department, show how valuable it was here at Mizzou, and then offer them the trial period. If they like it after the trial, they can pay for a yearly subscription. So that's kind of our scaling model and the way we were planning on pricing things in the future.
And because we are live streaming this, if you have a question or comment, Amanda Gassler from our staff has a microphone. She'll bring it to you if you'd like to ask a question or comment. We have about 7 or 8 minutes before the next presentation, so plenty of time if somebody would like to inquire of the team.
I'm sorry if maybe I missed this, but like, is there any sort of social aspect? And I do not mean Facebook or Twitter integration. What I mean is like, is there a way to say connect with my friends such that okay, it's not just going to the police department, but it's also going to my house sister or something like that, or my buddy Hank who is whatever.
Right. That was something we talked about kind of implementing in the future as maybe a version 2. Maybe you have the option to have an emergency contact as well. One of the things we didn't necessarily want to do is have it be one of our competitors. They notify other people who have the app, and so we kind of wanted to differentiate from that, but having an emergency contact is definitely one of the options that we are kind of exploring for the future.
Ideally, it would send like a text or something, so when it goes to the dispatcher, it's also sending a text to, let's say, your mom or something, letting her know that it went off somewhere in Colombia.
And that kind of reminds me, like, this isn't really necessarily a social aspect in the same way, but all that data that we're going to be keeping, we want to create kind of a crime heat map that would be pushed out to users and would be updated live so that people kind of know where other people are using the app, where alerts are happening, and they can plan their routes accordingly if they're going on a run or something like
And
that.
as far as city planning goes, it's something also we didn't get into a lot, but let's say police are noticing that every weekend 10, 15 people are using this app on Anthony Street. So they go to East Campus and they say, why are so many people using it on this street? And they can see that. And so then they can say, is it because there aren't enough lights? Is it because we're not patrolling here enough? And they can start to solve some of those problems.
Two questions. The first question, and first of all, it looks like a great app. It looks like it's a much greater improvements than the blue light things. Personally, I've been a student here and a graduate now, and I never knew exactly how to use the blue lights. So now, what my question is that there's some locations on campus, like perhaps portions of the parking garages maybe, or the basement of the library, where you may not get a signal on your phone, and it may be that you're the only one down there, you know, say in the library or at the parking garage. I know there's cameras that get certain angles, but if the phone isn't working, have you thought of maybe how to address that? Like if you're feeling unsafe and you're running to get to your car, you know, or something. I mean, I know that you've got the 10 seconds, but that might, if it cuts off the signal, you know, you may not have enough time to shut it off. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, that is kind of a difficult problem to combat because by nature of the phone, you do kind of rely on signal. However, we can do a lot of stuff with the Wi-Fi connection. If, say, if you're in the basement of the library, you will have that wireless connection. And besides that, we kind of thought, well, if you didn't have signal there, you kind of are just back to base one where you have that 911 emergency option on your cell phone anyway. But that is definitely a good point that we will look into kind of coming up with other solutions in the future.
Awesome. And then second point is, I was wondering if maybe, when you guys get to where you're actually packaging it and selling it, if you would sell like a kind of companion product that would maybe be like a secret coded wrist strap that would keep your phone secure to your wrist, because someone could say, mug you, they know this is in place, they're going to throw your phone away, throw you in a car, you know, but if you've got that securely wrapped around your wrist.
Yeah,
just
that was
a thought.
actually a suggestion that came up in some of the research that we were doing, having some sort of tether to make sure that you're not dropping your phone. So it's something we definitely thought about as well. And again, the nice thing about our app is if you do drop your phone in the case of an emergency, the automatic countdown will alert the police of your location already, but definitely.
There are a lot of interesting products like that out there. So when we were doing our research, there's actually a case you can buy for a phone where if you squeeze it hard enough, it contacts the police, because your natural instinct when you're in danger is to tense up. So yeah, definitely, there's lots of interesting things that could happen. Any other questions?
One more question?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, congratulations. I really enjoy your application. I'm an MBA student. Also, I'm the entrepreneur in residence here at the Missouri Innovation Center. So I've been involved in a lot of analysis of this kind of business. My previous background is technology. I've been working more than 15 years in technology business in South America, especially. And what I see here is you have a tremendous opportunity in other countries and overseas, because if you think about the security and safety issues, you can look around the countries like my country, Colombia, Mexico, Chile, Guatemala, and you will find a big market and a huge opportunity, because this is the kind of things you can find in our countries. This is like have a personal bodyguard. And of course, you will have a huge opportunity if you try in markets like countries overseas that have very big problems about personal safety. And I really enjoy your presentation, and if you want to come to the Missouri Innovation Center, you're most than welcome, and I would like to talk with you later.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And these are exactly the kinds of things that we are wanting to have happen, whether it's a student-generated project or other projects that come to RJI. Either we want to try to provide resources or point you to resources like the Innovation Center where we can make these things a reality. Let's congratulate one more time Team SafeTrek, and also congratulations to Team Place.